Welcome to the Wicket.
Hello and welcome to our latest roundup from the world of cricket, courtesy of Arab News here at The Wicket. I'm Brian Murgatroyd, and with me as ever to assess what's happening in the sport locally in the Gulf, regionally in Asia and worldwide, Arab News columnist Jon Pike and Arab News cricket reporter Subas Humagain. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, Brian. Hi, Subas.
Hi, John. Hello, Brian.
And in this episode, we reflect upon the group stage of the Indian Premier League, which has come to an end with Kolkata Knight Riders, Rajasthan Royals, Sunrisers Hyderabad and Royal Challengers Bengaluru winning through to the playoffs. We assess the England-Pakistan Women's T20I series. We chat about the start of the Netherlands, Scotland, Ireland T20I Tri-Series for men, which forms part of all three sides' preparations for the T20 World Cup next month. We look at decisions made by the Pakistan Cricket Board concerning future editions of the Pakistan Super League, including expansion and the decision to go head-to-head time-wise with the Indian Premier League. We kick around some other talking points to emerge this week, and on top of that, Subas and Jon give us their personal highlights from the past week. So, as ever, plenty of subjects to work through. So let's get started. After 70 matches, we finally reached the end of the league stage of this season's IPL. The four sides who have fought through to the playoffs are Kolkata Knight Riders, who top the table, Sunrisers Hyderabad, Rajasthan Royals and Royal Challengers Bengaluru. Kolkata and Rajasthan have been the form sides through the first stage of the tournament, although Rajasthan have dropped off significantly after winning 8 of their first 9 matches, and the washout in their final match against Kolkata meant Hyderabad, who won their final league stage match against Punjab Kings, successfully chasing 215 with 5 balls to spare, ended up in second spot. That was significant because the top 2 sides get 2 chances to qualify for the final. They go head-to-head, and the winner goes straight through to that ultimate match, whereas the loser plays the winner of the eliminator between sides 3 and 4, in this case, Rajasthan and RCB. Hyderabad, well, they've been the entertainers with their blitzkrieg batting, providing a highlight of this year's IPL. But what about RCB? They lost 7 of their first 8 matches, only to win 6 in a row to qualify, including knocking out defending champions Chennai Super Kings in a thrilling winner-take-all match at the Chinnaswamy Stadium. RCB had to win by 18 runs or better to leapfrog CSK, and in the end they won by 27 runs, although it looked like at one stage MS Dhoni would take Chennai to that target in the final over. CSK needed 17 from the final 6 balls bowled by Yash Dayal, the player who was struck for 5 sixes in an over by Rinku Singh in the previous edition of the tournament when he failed to defend 28 for Gujarat against Kolkata. Dhoni hit the first ball of the over for a massive 6, but Dayal dismissed him from ball 2 and conceded only 1 more run from his final 4 balls. Subas, let's talk RCB first. How on earth have they qualified for the playoffs? What an incredible achievement.
Exactly. I think IPL expect the unexpected. RCB have comment on just that. I think it was Mumbai who did a similar story, and the way they are playing, the form, the mentality they are, I think you can't count them out. And Virat Kohli, I think, was one of the greats. And it's the IPL that he's chasing for so long. And I think this season, the start didn't seem good. Everyone counted them out. We thought they're out of the scene, but I think they're right in the mix now, and could be one of the teams, one of the favorites actually, with the run of form they're in 6 matches straight, and I think you can't count them out.
Well, we certainly wrote them off here at the Wicket, but Jon, given the momentum they've got now, are they suddenly favourites, or should we offer that tag to Kolkata, given they topped the group stage?
Well, I think Knight Riders should continue to be favourites, given the
consistency they've shown. But as we discussed, we're now in a knockout stage, really, where anything could happen, and they'll all be looking over the shoulders at RCB.
Yes, Subhash, what about Kolkata? They've looked stronger and stronger as the league stage has progressed, but now they're without one of their strongest elements. That's Phil Salt, who's joined up with the England squad ahead of the T20 World Cup. Can they cope without him?
I think they certainly do. Ramonullah Gurbaz is there, who's been waiting for match time. He keeps wickets as well. It's like for like replacement. I'm not sure coming in straight into the team whether he can perform or not. And it's not just about him. I think Kolkata has not played for last two matches. They've rested quite a lot, but they've traveled without any matches. So I think that will be a problem for them to get into the game right away. But they still have a chance after the qualifier. So I think they'll try and get everything they can. And I think Phil Salt won't be missed. His runs certainly might, but I think they've got good replacement in Gurbaz.
Yes, a couple of washouts for Kolkata at the end of their league stage action. But John, where's it all gone wrong for Rajasthan, do you think? And can they get their show back on the road? They've limped over the line into the playoffs, especially as they're now up against an ultra-confident RCB.
Yes, they've had a middle order problem. Looking at the numbers, the number 5 to 8 batters averaged 12.46, and I don't think they've very much time to rectify that.
Yes, that's a significant problem. And of course, let's also remember they're now missing Jos Buttler, who's gone back to captain the England team against Pakistan in the lead up to the T20 World Cup. Subhash, Sunrisers, like Rajasthan, they've stuttered over the line to an extent after that run of 4 wins in 5 matches earlier in the tournament propelled them into the playoff places. But their win against Punjab Kings at the end of the league stage, surely that's just given them the boost they needed heading into these finals, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. Despite losing Travis at first ball, I think the opening pair they were reliant on, but middle order come out well. This Kumar Reddy once again proving that 100 class and getting among the runs. It was a bleak period for him in the middle, but not just about Sunrise. I think it was a lot to do with Rajasthan, who have not won in the last 5 matches. I think towards the business end, this should be giving better performances, but that has not happened. But they have experienced players; they'll come back. And Sunrisers, I think they're lucky to be in the second spot despite not playing as well.
Yes, Sunrisers win against Punjab Kings. They're into second place, and well, they can be encouraged by that fact. John, let's talk about the sides too that didn't get into the playoffs, starting with CSK, the defending champions. Ruturaj Gaikwad spoke after their game against RCB about the injury and unavailability issues that had cost them dear, he felt. They, of course, were without New Zealand opener Devon Conway, who broke his thumb in the lead-up to the tournament. Matisha Patirana suffered a hamstring injury. Mustafiza Rahman missed matches through visa and international calls. Is their failure to qualify as simple as those 3 players coming and going, or in some cases not even coming at all, or is there more to it than that?
Well, injuries haven't helped, but I don't think that's entirely the reason. What we don't know is how Conway would have played had he been available. CSK look vulnerable to me, as we've discussed before, after the first 3 matches. Well, they're in transition, the new captain. I think Dhoni's ability to win games at the death has been declining for probably 5 years now, ever since the 2019 World Cup. In the end, they lost out on a run rate difference of 0.067. I mean, is that really the way to determine final placings in a tournament where there is so much stake, so much money at stake?
Well, it'd certainly be frustrating for the CSK top brass. You can be sure of that. And they'll be looking back over the 14 matches they played and thinking where they could have got those runs from somewhere. But Subhash, Shivam Dube, he was trumpeted as someone for CSK to hang their hats on, but in that pressure game against RCB, he failed to deliver. 7 runs from 15 balls, and he came in, remember, as an impact player in that match, and he certainly didn't make the impact that CSK were hoping that he would do. Should India fans be worried ahead of the T20 World Cup, given that he's part of that squad?
Yes, I think it's worrying times for Shivam Dube and Indian fans. He hasn't scored any runs in last 5 innings that he's played in IPL, 2 ducks knocks to carry away with that, and hasn't ball as well. The impact player rule, I think, is suffered the most. Shivam Dube, and the selectors might be scratching their heads, not taking Rinku Singh and going with Dube without his bowling prowess. I think that's a selection that will be talked upon. I think Dube will be joining the camp sooner than Rinku Singh. I think that will have some advantage that the coaching staffs will work with him, since India has said that they'll take the players without IPL playoff earlier. But I think Dube is in tough condition now. I think he should work hard in the camp to win back this trust from the selectors.
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because, of course, the squads don't have to be finalised until the 25th of May. So I wonder if the Indian selectors will actually blink on that one, or will they show faith in Dube and persist with him for the tournament? But what about MS Dhoni as well, Subhash? The by now usual debate will start as CSK's season is over. The will he, won't he continue? What's your take on it?
A lot depends on the mega auction, I think, of how Chennai opt to go. Will they retain, or how RTM works? I think that will depend on Dhoni's future. The last home game against Chepak, I think Chennai put out a social media post saying to ask fans to stay after the game. We were expecting something announcement from Dhoni, but nothing came. So I think he's still in double mind. You never know what Dhoni does. We've been saying for 3 seasons now this is the last, but it hasn't been. So I think a lot resides on how the auction works.
Yes, interesting to see one of the members of the coaching staff, Mike Hussey, hoping that Dhoni would stay around for another couple of years. Goodness me, it's going to be fascinating to follow that story over the coming weeks and months. And of course, we will here at the Wicket. John, what about Mumbai Indians? Bottom of the ladder, 4 wins from 14 matches. And at the end of their campaign, coach Mark Boucher admitted for the first time publicly that I saw that all the chat about Hardik Pandya as captain had affected Hardik and also the team. It has to go down, doesn't it, as a disastrous appointment for this season. But will MI now double down and go with him again as captain next time?
I think you would expect some significant changes to be made. I mean, they had Sharma, whose form tailed off, averaging 8.7 in the last 6 matches. They had Sky, world's #1 T20 batter, missed the first 3 matches. The fit Bumrah, plus Hardik. I think he must have been very badly affected by the heckling and the booing. He had a sort of movable role with both bat and ball. His economy and power play was 10.55. I think apart from Bumrah and possibly Courtesy, the bowling really has been subpar. So I would imagine that they're going to overhaul that squad.
What went wrong for Mumbai, Subhash, Hardik aside, or is it impossible to divorce the side's other issues from that of the captaincy?
Yeah, well, the root of the cause is the captaincy, leaving Rohit out. I think that made the dressing room unsettled. Rohit admitted that he didn't even stay with the team when there were home games. He stayed back at home, went few hours before the game and joined. I think that doesn't send out good message on how the squad should be built. A lot has to do with in this franchise league, you meet the players late. I think there should be a bonding between the players as well. And we saw even Rohit Sharma used as impact player when he went on to criticize about it. So I think the dressing room, as we spoke, that the change in captaincy needs to be backed by the team. But we never saw that even the fans were outraged with the decision, and the franchise lost the plot. It's a big decision ahead of next season on who they choose, either Rohit or Hardik. I don't think both of them will be part of the squad anytime soon.
Yes, it is going to be fascinating to see which side they decide to jump on, the MI management. But on the other sides who fail to make the playoffs, Delhi Capitals, Lucknow Super Giants, Gujarat Titans, who, let's not forget, were last season's runners-up, and Punjab Kings. Which disappointed you most and why? John, first of all.
Well, I think all of them disappointed in their respective ways. The Capitals did recover and nearly got into the playoffs. But I think Punjab, invested heavily in Sam Curran last year. I'm not sure that he's really repaid them. He's made captain this year when Shikhar Dhawan got injured. He's had flashes of brilliance, but is he really a leader? And when you look at Punjab, they've had 15 different captains, I think, in 17 seasons. So there's a complete absence of consistency. It really is a recipe for disaster. And you'd think that a franchise could actually do better than that in terms of leadership.
Yes, 3 captains this season because, of course, at the end of the campaign, Sam Curran headed off to join the England squad ahead of the T20 World Cup. Subhash, who really disappointed you out of the also-rans this season?
It has to be Lucknow. I think they had players who could turn the game anytime, but I think towards the end of the league season, they lost 3 in a row and were outplayed totally. I think that Marcus Stoinis' innings could have been the game changer for them. They should have carried the momentum, but they failed to do so.
Yes, a bit utterly disappointing in the end for Lucknow. And of course, Mayank Yadav, their quick bowling hope, he didn't last very long on the pitch after making an explosive start in the tournament, and that too undoubtedly cost them dear. Ahead of the playoffs, Virat Kohli, he's become the latest big name to come out against the impact sub. Now, gentlemen, will that be the tipping point for the BCCI in this matter? The fact that Kohli, of all people, has come out against the idea. John, first of all?
As I mentioned last week, I think they will assess after the World Cup, seeing how that plays out without the impact sub. I'd be reviewing another thing, which is the impact of rain in these latest critical stages. Why does the IPL go on so long, and why can't they play 2 matches more often on one day to shorten the tournament to avoid the possibility of impacting with rain at this time of the year?
I'm sure broadcasters would have a say in that, John, but it's a good point that you make. But Subas, what about Virat Kohli coming out against the impact sub? Is that the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of the continuation of this particular experiment?
Yeah, I think Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, two top dogs of Indian cricket, have come out and spoken against, and I think it's the benefit for the national team. You're playing the World Cup, and this was the wrong time for impact sub. But I think next year's IPL there won't be any big that T20 series or World Cup. So I think the noise will be less in the next season. But I think they missed out big time this season, and once again we see players like Shubham Dube, even Reddy from Sunrisers. I think there could have been a potential bowling all-rounder who could have made it into the squad, but India will be missing this big time.
Well, it's the business end of the tournament. Now we know who the final 4 sides are. Who will win the tournament, and why do you make that prediction? John, first of all?
Well, the Knight Riders have been the most consistent team. Sebastian's mentioned they've had 2 matches rained off, so they might be a bit rusty. I'm going for a Knight Riders RCB final, and I'm going to stick my neck out and go for RCB, given that they're the only one of the 4 teams that I said at the beginning of the tournament would actually feature in the playoffs.
Nice bit of straw clutching there by John to redeem himself. But wouldn't it be a story if RCB went on to win the tournament? Because, of course, if they do, it means that they'll have won 9 successive matches to lift the silverware. Subas, which way are you going?
Well, I'm sticking with Knight Riders this time. They played well. They're despite not playing last 2 matches, I think they're in well placed. The top order pair of Narayan and Gurbaz, I think, will go. So I think that will be decided on how things go. I think Sunrisers head Sarma will need to be at their best if they want to make the place in final.
Well, by the time of our next recording, we'll know which side will be the IPL champion team for 2024, and we'll wrap up the tournament then. England's women finished up their T20I series against Pakistan, a comfortable 3-0 success for the hosts. We spoke about the first match of the series in Birmingham in our previous episode, when England recovered from 11 for 4 inside 3 overs, and that was really as close as Pakistan got to laying a glove on England across the 3 matches. In the second encounter under the lights at Northampton, England crushed the touring side by 65 runs, bowling out Pakistan for 79 as their spinners Sophie Eccleston, Sarah Glenn and Alice Capsey took 7 wickets between them. The only crumb of comfort from that encounter for Pakistan was that Nida Dar, who took 2 for 33, became the top wicket taker in women's T20I history, moving past Australia's Megan Schutt. In match 3 in Leeds, Danny Wyatt's brutal 87 from 48 balls helped to propel the hosts to 176, despite 3 wickets apiece from Diana Baig and Nida Dar, and Pakistan never looked like getting close, eventually finishing at 142 for 4. John, success for England, but how do you assess their series?
I think pretty good after being, say, 4 wickets down after 2.5 overs, so not very many in match 1. Some of the big names didn't score many runs. Bouchier was preferred over others, didn't really do well. Knight and Capsey didn't really show their true form. Last match, there were 3 run-outs, but others showed up when needed, such as Amy Jones. So I think that's a good sign of the depth of the team.
And John, Sophie Eccleston and Sarah Glenn, they shared 11 wickets between them in the series. Do you expect England's spinners to be as effective in the longer white ball format, one-day internationals, that will now follow?
Well, the bowling looks strong, although Dara and Riaz did put on 70 for the 5th wicket in the 3rd match. The Eccleston and Glenn are class bowlers, so yes, I would expect them to be as effective in 50-over matches. It does depend a bit on the weather and the pitches, so slightly unknown territory.
Subas, Pakistan, Nidada aside, not much for them to get enthusiastic about, let's be realistic, but speak to us about Nida's achievement in becoming the top wicket taker in the format.
Well, it's a fantastic achievement, and it's got to do with her longevity of career. I think she's been playing for 14 years. A lot of players have debuted and retired after that. She's captained the side. She's leading the bowling attack till now. I think she's been consistent taking wickets. She didn't take wicket in the first game, but she's come back well. She's an example for Pakistan cricket, women's cricketer who aspire to be professionals, and she's still going strong. That's the important part, because we've seen some players, experienced players, leaving Pakistan just before the World Cup, but Nida stand strong, and I think she'll be one they'll rely on for a long, long time.
Sebastian, I just want to get your take on something as well. We mentioned that in that 3rd match in Leeds, Pakistan finished at 142 for 4, so they lost that game by 34 runs, but were still only 4 wickets down. Would you like to have seen them make a bit more of a commitment to go for that target rather than just, well, in effect, bat out the 20 overs?
We've seen how Pakistan struggle in overseas conditions. I think it's more about taking the feel of the environment rather than getting the results. They know they won't be able to chase that total. So I think it was about getting to better feel the environment and prepare for the series. I think the match was already lost rather than losing all out. I think it was a good preparation for themselves to get used to the atmosphere.
Well, the two sides will now face each other in 3 one-day internationals, which will count towards the ICC Women's Championship. John has just alluded to them a short while ago. The top 6 sides in the 10-team ladder that makes up the Women's Championship will qualify automatically for the Women's World Cup in India in 2025, while the bottom 4 sides will have to go through the qualifier. The current order is Australia, who've qualified anyway as holders of the title, South Africa, England, New Zealand, Pakistan and India, with the latter also qualified because of hosting status, while the sides outside the top 6 are West Indies, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Ireland. These 3 matches are Pakistan's last of the cycle, and they're only 2 points ahead of the West Indies and Sri Lanka, with the West Indies having 9 matches left and Sri Lanka 6. 3 points behind Pakistan are Bangladesh, who have 6 games left. So these matches really are critical for Pakistan to give themselves any chance at all of remaining in the top 6, although the fact that the West Indies and Sri Lanka are due to play each other in June will give them some comfort, as that means both of those sides can't gain maximum points from that series. John, how do you see the women's table now?
I was surprised if Pakistan get much out of England. Maybe nick one match, who knows? And we don't know the weather's going to be like. So I think it has advantage to West Indies and Sri Lanka, who have bottom team Ireland to play 3 times in August after their encounter with the West Indies.
And Sebastian, if you had to pick one from West Indies, Sri Lanka or Bangladesh to take Pakistan's spot in the top 6, who would it be and why?
I think Bangladesh are pretty much out of this race. It's going to be either Sri Lanka or West Indies, and the next series next month, I think that will be the decider. They're playing in Galle. Sri Lanka will be better prepared for the conditions, but we've seen Hayley Matthews, what she can do. So I think that Sri Lanka West Indies series is going to be decided on who gets the 6th spot.
The Netherlands are hosting a 6-match tri-series for men, also involving Scotland and Ireland, that will serve as a final warm-up for all 3 sides ahead of their ICC T20 World Cup campaigns. As we record this podcast, the first 2 matches of the tournament have been played, with the Dutch beating Scotland comfortably by 41 runs before Ireland beat the Dutch by 1 run in a thriller in Game 2. John, a great way for the Dutch to start their campaign by winning that opener, although they lost their way badly against Ireland in Game 2. Just wondering, did the ease of the Dutch win in Game 1 surprise you, especially as they're without players playing county cricket, the likes of Colin Ackerman, Roelof van der Merwe, who are also both not available for the T20 World Cup.
Yeah, they got away to a brisk start against Scotland, 68 off 11 overs. Michael Levitt with 43, and then they claimed early wickets, reducing Scotland to 16 for 3. Rounded off with Vivian Kingma producing very impressive figures. 4 for 21 in 3.1 overs. So they got the early stages of the first match right and served them well for victory.
Yes, they got the latter stages of game 2 very wrong, though. Sebash, the Dutch have included finger spinner Daniel Dorham, who's been in terrific form in the Caribbean for the Leeward Islands. He qualifies as he was born in Saint Martin, a constituent state of the Netherlands. He's a Dutch passport holder, and he's someone who's played for the country previously. How significant do you think could he be, not only in this series, but also in the T20 World Cup?
Well, certainly he knows the West Indian conditions well, and Netherlands are playing 2 of the matches of the group stage in that conditions. That will help them. Not having Van der Merwe and Saris Ahmed being out of form just before the World Cup, I think that opened the door for him, and he's performed well. And I think it's going to be West Indies where the team will rely on him. They still have Aryan Dutt who can play some spin. Pringle is there. I think Pringle or Durham. I think only one will be in the lineup. So I think they'll count in for the West Indies legs.
And John, did the nature of Scotland's loss to the Dutch in that first game surprise you, or is that what these matches are for, to blow away the cobwebs and fine-tune ahead of the main event?
Well, it did surprise, yes. I mean, I think that Berrington and Cross scored pretty well 70% of the runs off the bat. So there's plenty of cobwebs surrounding the others, and I think they need to improve very quickly.
And Sebash, what about Ireland? They made a dreadful start in game 2 as they slipped to 83 for 6 before Gareth Delaney and Mark Adair rescued them to 150 for 8. And then they strangled the Dutch innings. The Dutch were 81 for 2, but then they slipped to 109 for 7. It was an eventual one-run loss for the Dutch as Mark Adair defended 20 in the final over, despite Tim Pringle's heroics as he hit 2 sixes and got it down to 3 off the last delivery. What about Ireland, Sebash?
Mark Adair, he had an excellent domestic series with both bat and ball, and he just continued it when it's needed. 49 runs. I think that break in the last overs was very important to get them to a stronger total, and holding on to their senses in the last ball. I think despite getting smashed first 2 sixes in a row, I think that deserves a lot of accolade. And the rightly winner, Mark Adair, truly match winner, and I think the domestic cricket has helped Ireland to get some momentum.
Yes, he certainly did have to hold his nerve there, Mark Adair, at the end after Tim Pringle had taken to him. Interestingly as well, Fionn Hand was given his chance in that match after not being included in Ireland's T20 World Cup provisional squad, but he got the opportunity because Graham Hume, the South African-born seamer, was unable to make the trip to the Netherlands because of visa delays. Hand responded with a brilliant 4 overs, 3 for 18, and he's given the Irish selectors a headache. The Tri-Series, it doesn't include a final incidentally, wraps up on Friday, May the 24th, and we'll discuss it in its entirety in our next episode. Hot on the heels of the Pakistan Super League announcing they'll go head-to-head against the Indian Premier League in 2025, comes the news that the league is set to become an 8-team event from 2026 onwards. It hasn't yet been announced, incidentally, where the 2 new teams will be based. Just wonder, gentlemen, what do you make of this decision? We've discussed in the past on this podcast the challenges of spreading talent too thinly in franchise competitions with a resultant drop in the overall standard. Just wonder, does Pakistan have the strength in depth to do this and expand by 2 teams? Sebash, first of all?
I think it's tough to get foreign players. Pakistan, their domestic setup is right. They're fine with it, but it's about the foreign players who will be wanting to leave big IPL contract and come to play PSL. There will be a handful of players, but will there be stars who will be leading the league? That's going to be a tough one, and it's going to be head-to-head. I think PSL will have to struggle in that front.
John, the expansion from 6 teams to 8, what do you make of it?
Well, I think it does spread the talent too thinly. What it does mean is they have to tout for talent elsewhere. In the fast-changing world of T20 franchise cricket, who knows who will be available and from where in 2026. At least for 2025, there's no clash with SA20 or AOT20 or indeed the Bangladesh Premier League. So the attraction base has widened for next year. Then, of course, there's the English county cricketers who may well be tempted by this and are going to get pulled not only by that, but also the franchise league in the States.
Yes, as you say, John, it is an ever-changing situation. The PCB has also said that the window for next year's competition, that's April and May, which clashes with the IPL, will be the preferred window going forward. It's changed for the next edition as the ICC Champions Trophy, which Pakistan is hosting, will take place in February-March in 2025. John, do you think the switch to April and May is sensible in the long term going up against the IPL? Surely in terms of eyeballs, there can only be one winner, even if the sponsors tend to be mutually exclusive.
Yes, I think the polite way of describing this is a brave move. 2025 will be Pakistan Super League 10 with the 6 teams before it expands in 2026. Perhaps it would have been wiser to see how it goes against the IPL in 2025 and then make a decision on dates. And 2026 does represent a bag of uncertainty for the Pakistan Super League. 10-year franchise agreements are up for renewal, existing owners having first right of refusal. There's also the expiration of the broadcast deal. So I think we can expect quite a lot of churn, and even more so if the rumours are true that they're considering switching the playoffs to the UK, ostensibly because of heat conditions in Pakistan in May.
Yes, plenty of water to go under the bridge before we get to that point, of course, but also plenty of areas up for discussion and ideally for firming up sooner rather than later. Subas, I wonder, can the PCB convince the existing franchise owners of the value of going up against the IPL? One report that I read suggested at least half the franchises still need to be convinced of the value of that proposal.
It's going to be a tough job for PCB. I think the franchise, they look at the finances at first, then the players. I think going against IPL will be tough in more fronts, like John said, especially the broadcasting one, with the quality of players, the quality of broadcast, and the number that the IPL possesses. I think PSL will struggle if it goes head to head, and if there's no finances, I think it will be tough for franchises to go along with that plan.
And John, how do you think the players will view this, especially the overseas players? Will they see the PSL as a fallback if they don't get an IPL contract, or will they see it as something to be aimed for instead of the IPL?
Probably both, depending on who they are.
And of course, John, I guess when the respective auctions take place too.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And the timing of those will be an interesting decision for PCB to make.
And Subas, is a key now for the PCB to ensure that they position their auction before the next IPL auction to ensure they get first pick rather than the leftovers.
Well, I'd say this would go the other way around. Imagine picking all players and everyone opts out of PSL to go play IPL because there's big bucks. So I think it's a very tricky job. You go and choose first choice players, but imagine what would be the consequences if they go on to play the IPL instead. So I say they should talk to the franchises and wait for the players who commit fully to play PSL and not get themselves into an IPL auction at all.
Yes, it's going to be very, very interesting to see which way this plays out, and we will of course stay across it here at the Wicket. And finally, gentlemen, as we always do, let's hear from you about something that's caught your attention this week in the world of cricket. John, first of all.
Well, county cricket has returned in England and Wales. I've seen parts of 2 matches. The county championship now bookends the English summer in April/May and September, and weather conditions are least favourable so as to accommodate the T20 competition, the ODI Cup and the 100. Some say this is managed decline on the part of the authorities. Joe Root and the Professional Cricketers Association say it's unsustainable in terms of physical health and unsafe travel. Teams and players crisscrossing the country at unsociable hours. Those who are in favour of the county championship say it's a breeding ground for Test cricket, but it's likely, I think, to be reduced further in future. And it looks like further evidence that franchise cricket is actually strangling the longer format.
Well, from a positive perspective, in terms of county cricket, Ben Stokes, the England Test captain, made his bow over the past week in first-class cricket for the season, and he bowled 38 overs and took 7 wickets. So that's a positive, John, moving towards the 6 Test matches that England have got against West Indies and Sri Lanka later on in the summer, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is, and it does affect the balance of the side as well if you can bowl.
Subas, what have you been up to, and what have you made of the past week? I'm guessing you're getting ready to head off to the USA and the Caribbean to follow Nepal. Nepal, of course, already in the Caribbean with their preparations.
Yeah, they played 3 matches in St. Vincent, and not the exact venue they will be playing the World Cup, but I think it's good for acclimatization, and they've already come back to Houston to play 2 more matches with the local club, and it's good preparation for them. They've got ample of matches, and now the focus turns to the World Cup, and there's been another thing that's going on with Sandeep Lamichhane being cleared of his case. Will he be in? Will he not be in? I think that's got to be a huge dilemma for coaching staff to make sure all 15 players who are into the squad get balanced. The mentality they're in, I think it's going to be tough to see who replaces if he actually gets into the squad.
What's your gut feeling there, Subas? Will Lamachan make it into the World Cup squad now that he's been cleared?
Well, he's still doing the paperwork to get to the US, but the quality of player he is, I think any team in the world would have him as a player. So it's up to the coaching staff to see how good in fitness he is. He's not played match for more than half a year now, so it's a tough job for them as well.
And Subas, if he were to come in, who would miss out from the original squad, and would that cause any sort of friction within the playing unit?
Well, Kamal Singh, Pratish DC and Sagar Tagal, so 3 bowlers. The team is already bowler heavy, so you can't expect a batter to go out. So if it's like for like replacement, Sagar Tagal will be the unlucky omission. If the team opts to put 1 more spinner, I think it's Pratish DC or Kamal Singh ID. And I think that the coaching staff will do it for the merit of squad. If he's required, I think the players will understand it's the way it is, that the final squad is due to be announced on 25th May. So everyone has their eyes on whether he'll be in or out.
And John, England are getting ready for the T20 World Cup with a series against Pakistan, a warm-up for both sides, in fact. But England, of course, including Jofra Archer. So plenty to get excited there from an England perspective. How do you think Jofra will go? He's been playing some second 11 cricket, hasn't he, for Sussex in the lead-up to this T20I series?
Yes, he has. I think he's hit a couple of people on the helmet already. One never knows what's going to happen with him. One hopes that he can keep fit, but given all the various injuries he has had, it's a matter of keeping fingers crossed, I think.
Yes, we've all got our fingers crossed for Jofra because he's had a miserable couple of years with a very serious elbow injury. And fingers crossed that he does come through the series against Pakistan and is also able to play a full part in the T20 World Cup. Well, that's it for another episode here of The Wicket. We'll be back soon with more cricket chat from the Gulf region, Asia and worldwide. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment on what you've heard wherever you get your podcast. We'd love to hear your feedback. And of course, let us know if there's anything you'd like us to feature in future episodes. For now, though, this is Brian Murgatroyd along with Jon Pike and Subas Humagain saying thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to your company next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.